So welcome to today's deep dive. We're so glad you're joining us for this one because if you want to be truly polite in the English language, you often have to basically grammatically destroy the very question you're trying to ask.
Yeah, it really is this strange paradox. I mean, you take a perfectly functional sentence, you just tear down its load-bearing walls, rearrange the furniture, and then present it as something else entirely.
Right. And that tells us that grammar isn't just, some rigid set of rules from a dusty textbook.
Oh, absolutely not. It's a real-time negotiation. Like every single time you open your mouth, you are manipulating social distance, you're recalibrating power dynamics, and you are literally translating time.
Which is exactly the mission for our deep dive today. We are looking at a stack of language lessons to really unpack the hidden architecture of the English language.
Yeah, we're skipping the boring basic definitions today because we really want to look at the why.
Exactly. Like, why do we instinctively shift our words around based on who we're talking to? Or how polite we want to be and how we report information from the past? By the end of this, you'll be able to see the invisible scaffolding behind just everyday conversations.
And it really all starts with understanding that word order is, at its core, a psychological tool.
Okay, a psychological tool. How so?
Well, the English language relies heavily on syntax. The actual arrangement of words to convey meaning. It does this much more than languages that rely on complex word endings.
Right, because we don't have all those complicated cases and declensions.
Exactly. So because of that, even the absolute slightest structural shift completely changes where the listener's brain focuses its attention.
Let's actually look at the foundational mechanics of giving and receiving to see how this works in practice. Before we get into the crazy politeness stuff,
Good idea.
the classic example in the sources we're looking at is the sentence, Andrew gave his dog a bone.
Right. It's a very standard structure. The action is giving. The direct object, the thing being given, is the bone.
And the indirect object, the recipient, is the dog.
Yeah. And the rule is when you put the recipient before the item, the sentence just flows without any extra scaffolding. Andrew gave his dog a bone.
But you can easily flip those two objects, right? Like you can say Andrew gave a bone to his dog.
Yes, exactly.
Or if we use another example from the stack, changing I made my friend a sandwich into I made a sandwich for my friend.
Right. You just swap the direct and indirect objects.
Yeah. But suddenly the language forces us to build this tiny bridge, the preposition to or for. So think of it like this. The direct object is the physical package you're mailing, and the indirect object is the shipping address.
That's a great analogy.
But it makes me wonder, why do we even have two completely different ways to say the exact same thing if the meaning literally doesn't change a fraction of a percent?
Oh, that's such a good question. The reason it exists is a concept called end weight.
End weight, meaning like the back half of the sentence carries a heavier psychological burden.
Precisely, yeah, in terms of cognitive anticipation. I mean, English speakers are conditioned to wait for the end of a clause for the most crucial piece of new information.
Oh, like a punchline effect.
Exactly like a punchline.
Mm.
So if you say, I am writing a letter to Grandma, the emotional landing point of that sentence is Grandma. The listener's attention is forcefully directed to the recipient.
Okay. But if someone asks what I'm busy doing, and the physical task is the important part, I'd use the other structure. I'd say, I am writing Grandma a letter.
Right, and then the focus lands squarely on the letter. It's a subtle recalibration of the spotlight just by moving the direct object to the very end of the line.
Wow, okay.
And it also affects the rhythm of speech.
Yeah.
Pronouns are light and fast. Saying I gave it to him flows perfectly.
Oh, yeah. But if you try to put the pronoun at the end without a preposition, like I gave him an alum.
It feels incredibly clunky.
Yeah, the tongue just completely rejects it. It sounds so weird.
It does. So we basically use these two patterns to manage the cognitive load of the listener and just the physical flow of the speaker.
Okay, so that structural shift is pretty subtle. We're just moving two pieces of information around and adding a tiny bridge word. But if we compare that pattern against what happens when we try to be polite, we enter a completely different level of linguistic manipulation.
Oh, absolutely. We go from like a minor home renovation to a complete structural demolition.
Exactly. This is where we hit indirect questions. And this might be, honestly, the most crucial social tool a speaker can master.
Oh, without a doubt. Especially when you're navigating a corporate environment or just asking for help in a new city. Direct questions can be socially dangerous.
They really can. They feel demanding. Like if I walk up to someone on the street and just ask, where is the bank? Or, what time does the meeting start? The syntax itself is aggressive.
Even if your tone of voice is super friendly.
Yeah.
Right. And that aggressiveness comes from the inversion. A direct question basically flips the standard order of the universe.
Yeah.
Instead of subject then verb, it uses verb then subject. Where's the bank?
Or it recruits those heavy support verbs like do or does to sort of prop up the interrogation. What time does the meeting start?
Yeah, grammatically speaking, that structure is a literal command for data. It demands an immediate cognitive response from the poor person you just interrupted.
Which brings us back to the paradox of politeness. To take the edge off that demand, we use the golden rule of indirect questions, which is we just abandon the question format entirely.
We completely revert to a standard affirmative statement. You take that inverted verb subject order and you destroy it, returning to subject verb.
So where is the bank? Could you tell me where the bank is?
Exactly. The subject, the bank, now comes before the verb is. It's no longer structured as a question at the end of the clause.
And for the second example, what time does the meeting start? Transforms into, do you know what time the meeting starts? We just completely delete the support verb does.
Yeah, it's gone. And you also build in these softeners at the beginning of the sentence. Phrases like, I was wondering, or do you happen to know?
Oh, right. And the sources mention that if you are asking a yes or no question, like, is this seat taken? You insulate the inquiry with if or whether.
Right, so it becomes, do you know if this seat is taken?
Wait, so to be more polite, we actually make the question sound less like a question and more like a standard affirmative statement?
But that is exactly what we do. And the psychology behind this is fascinating. We are essentially hiding our inquiry inside an observation.
We're dressing up a demand for information in the costume of a casual statement.
Yes. It creates social distance, which kind of acts as linguistic bubble wrap.
Linguistic bubble wrap. I like that.
Well, by starting with, I was wondering, you are making a statement about your own internal state of curiosity, right?
Yeah.
Rather than launching an interrogation at a total stranger.
So it gives the listener an out. They are no longer being commanded to supply data. They are just being invited to assist you with your curiosity.
Exactly. Yeah. We demolish the question syntax because inverted verbs are inherently confrontational.
So we are offering subject-verb order as basically a peace offering to a stranger's ego.
That is an incredibly accurate way to frame it, yeah.
Okay, so if indirect questions are about managing social distance in the present moment, what happens when we have to manage distance in time?
Oh, this is the heavy lift.
Right. Reporting what someone else said in the past seems to be the heaviest lift in daily conversation.
Reported speech is where the invisible scaffolding of English just works overtime. This isn't just about being polite anymore. This is about translating reality.
The sources outline the mechanics of shifting from direct to indirect speech. Direct speech is the exact quote, right? Like, Maggie says, I feel ill.
Yeah, it's frozen in time. Quotation marks around it.
But in daily life, we rarely quote people exactly like that. We report the meaning. We say, Maggie said that she felt ill.
And the core mechanical rule there is taking the verb tense one step back in time.
Present becomes past.
Right. So I am studying shifts to... She was studying. But it goes much further back, too. Present perfect shifts to past perfect. I have been to London becomes... He had been to London.
Even the future tense takes this weird sideways step into the conditional, like, I will go to Mumbai transforms into he would go to Mumbai.
Exactly.
It's kind of like, think of direct speech, like handing someone a photograph of a specific moment. The lighting, the background, the subjects, they're all perfectly captured in that one instant.
I love that. But reporting that speech is not holding up the photograph. It's more like painting a portrait of that exact event the very next day from memory in a completely different room.
Yeah, you can't just trace the original image. You have to adjust the lighting on your canvas by shifting the verb tenses. And you have to paint in a completely different background.
Because the physical markers of the sentence have to change to match your current reality. Time and place expressions must mutate.
Right, so today becomes that day. Tomorrow becomes the next day. Here becomes there.
Yes. So if a colleague tells you on Tuesday, I will leave the file here tomorrow, you cannot repeat that on Wednesday in a different office.
You'd sound crazy.
You would. You have to say, he said he would leave the file there the next day.
I mean, it sounds like a tedious grammar exercise when you list the conversions like that, but when you look at the why, it's actually a profound philosophical shift.
It really is. The reality of the original speaker's present moment is now your past.
You are actively translating their temporal coordinate system into your own.
Because if you don't shift the verbs backward, you are kind of lying about the state of the universe.
Wait, how so?
Well, as Maggie said, I feel ill yesterday, and you report Maggie said she feels ill today, You are making a medical claim about her current state that you cannot possibly verify.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I never thought about it like that.
Right. The step back in time actually protects the factual integrity of the statement.
But the cognitive load required to translate all those temporal coordinates on the fly is just massive.
Yeah.
You are simultaneously tracking pronoun changes, calculating verb tense regressions, and substituting spatial markers.
All in real time.
That much mental processing power has to lead to system crashes.
Oh, it absolutely does. Which brings us to the danger zones.
Yeah.
The sources we're looking at highlight a series of typical student mistakes, but let's be real. These are errors native speakers make constantly when they're speaking quickly or under stress.
For sure. The most common failure is simply forgetting to change the tense, right? Leaving the reported speech in the present.
Yeah, the brain just runs out of RAM.
Or they tangle the pronouns, making it sound like the speaker is talking about themselves instead of the original subject.
Yes. But the absolute red zone, the specific mistake that trips up almost everyone, is reporting a question.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
The error is leaving the question word order exactly the same as it was in direct speech.
Let's pull the exact example from the lessons. The original direct question is, what is the time?
And the incorrect way to report that is, she asked what was the time.
Which I hear all the time. She asked, what was the time? Or, he asked, where was the bank?
Right. The speaker successfully changed the pronoun. They successfully shifted the verb from present to past became, was. But they failed to dismantle the architecture.
They kept the inverted verb-subject structure. They just clung to the question format. Is this happening just because our brains stubbornly remember an inquiry took place, so we hold on to the syntax of an interrogation?
That is exactly the primary cognitive trap. The brain has already spent so much energy calculating the time shift to the pronoun shift that it defaults to the familiar auditory rhythm of a question.
It's just easier in the moment.
It is. But think back to what we discovered about politeness. Do you remember the golden rule for indirect questions?
The structural demolition. We had to abandon the inverted question order and revert to a standard subject-verb affirmative statement.
Yes. And the rule for reporting a question in the past is the exact same architectural trick as making a polite indirect question in the present.
Wait, really? It's the exact same rule?
The exact same. You must completely abandon the question format. No inversion. No auxiliary do or does. You return to subject-verb.
Oh, wow, that is a brilliant convergence. The rules aren't arbitrary at all. The language is recycling the exact same solution for two completely different problems.
Exactly. Where is the bank? Becomes the polite, could you tell me where the bank is? Subject before verb.
And if you report it the next day, it becomes, he asked where the bank was, subject before verb.
Yep. Whether you are softening the blow to protect a stranger's ego or translating a question through time, the structural solution is identical. You just hide the question inside a statement.
It is incredibly satisfying to see the scaffolding connect like that. I mean, we've seen how to manipulate focus with objects, how to use social distance with indirect questions, and how to translate time with reported speech.
We have covered a lot of ground.
But there is one final structure in our stack of sources that doesn't really do any of those things. It doesn't give information, it doesn't request it, and it doesn't report it.
It coerces it.
Exactly. The confirmation check. Or, as it's more commonly known, the tag question.
Right. These are the tiny, fragmented questions tacked onto the very end of a sentence like, the boys are sleeping, aren't they?
And when you dissect them, they operate on this really strange principle of reverse polarity. A positive main clause requires a negative tag.
Yeah. So the boys are sleeping is positive, so the tag is negative, aren't they?
And if the main clause is negative, the tag flips to positive. Jane doesn't work hard, does she?
It creates this kind of pendulum swing in the dialogue, up then down then up.
But the exceptions to this polarity rule reveal some super bizarre historical quirks. Like, if you make a suggestion, let's dance, the tag completely ignores polarity. It becomes, shall we?
Let's dance, shall we? Yeah,
Or for a negative command, like, don't open the door, the tag becomes, will you?
Those are basically structural fossils. They are holdovers from highly formal, much older versions of English that have just somehow survived the evolution of casual conversation.
Speaking of formal fossils, the tag for the word may is hilariously rigid.
Oh, I love this one.
The source mentions you can technically say, I may go, may I not? It feels like something out of a 19th century parliamentary debate.
It really does.
But to me, the absolute most fascinating quirk is What happens when you use the tag for I am? Because the polarity rule states that I am late must take a negative tag.
Right.
But the result breaks the fundamental laws of English grammar. We say, I am late, aren't I?
Yes, we do.
But we are pairing the pronoun I with the verb are. We would never say I are late. So how does am magically transform into aren't?
This specific anomaly tells us pretty much everything we need to know about how language evolves in the real world. Language is not some sterile mathematical equation.
Right.
It is a living, breathing mechanism designed for the physical comfort of the human tongue.
It prioritizes flow over logic.
Absolutely. Just think about the alternatives. Saying, am I not, is way too stiff and formal for a quick confirmation check.
I am late, am I not? Yeah, too stuffy.
Right. And saying amped I requires a really clumsy transition in the mouth. Going from the M to the N is difficult to articulate rapidly.
Anti. Yeah, that's awful.
So English speakers collectively decided to just commit a grammatical crime. We stole aren't simply because it rolls off the tongue. We broke the load-bearing wall of subject-verb agreement just for the sake of conversational convenience.
And honestly, the psychological purpose of these tags is just as manipulative as the grammar. When you state an assumption first, the boys are sleeping, and then immediately attach the tag, aren't they? You aren't genuinely asking for new data.
Not at all. You are cornering the listener.
Yeah.
You are presenting your highly specific version of reality and basically demanding that they rubber stamp it.
It is a linguistic nudge. You are steering them toward agreement and solidarity before they even have a chance to, formulate their own opinion.
Which brings our whole journey through these structures full circle. Whether you are using tag questions to socially corner a colleague, or shifting object placement to control their focus.
Or dismantling question syntax to massage their ego. Or translating verb tenses to accurately report the past.
Exactly. You are never just speaking. You are engineering the interaction.
You really are the architect of the conversation. By deciding where to place your subjects, verbs, and objects, you are actively manipulating the social dynamics of the room.
It makes you realize how much power is hidden in just the mundane choices we make every time we open our mouths.
It really does.
Yeah.
And it leaves us with a much deeper question about the society that built these specific conversational walls over centuries.
Yeah. I mean, if we have collectively engineered incredibly complex grammatical workarounds, like completely destroying the structure of a question just to avoid sounding demanding, what does that reveal about human interaction?
Right. Like, why is directness so universally equated with rudeness in the English-speaking world?
Why does the naked, grammatically efficient request for information feel like an attack that requires the padding of a chi? I was wondering if. It implies a certain fragility in our social contracts.
Are we too fragile for our own verbs? That is a profound thought to carry with you.
It is.
So the next time you hesitate to ask exactly what you want, or you catch yourself padding an email with endless softeners, just take a look at the invisible scaffolding you are building. You might just realize you've been a master architect this entire time.